Okay, we are streaming our Governance and Priority Committee meeting. We have an agenda in front of us. Any additions or deletions, administration?
Madam Chair, we'd like to add an in-camera item under 10B, Genesee Gun Range Update.
10B,
Genesee,
in-camera.
Yeah, Genesee Gun Range Update, and it'll be a verbal update, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes or additions? I am seeing none. With that, someone want to move the agenda as amended? Councillor Wanchuk, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous. We have minutes of our March 1st, 2022 Governance and Priorities meetings. Councillor Lewis, move those as correct?
Yep,
Thank you. Any questions on those? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. So great. Moving on to 4A, one of the first of three presentations this morning, and this one is from the Wizard Lake Watershed with Blake and Linda. So are you doing an introduction? Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Honesty, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be joined by Blake Bartlett, President of the Wizard Lake Watershed Association, to give an annual update to Council. As Council is very aware, we have a strong partnership with the watershed, and we also are contributing a funder to some of their initiatives. So Blake will provide you an overview of the work that they've accomplished and they intend to do in 2022.
Hey, good morning all. Thank you very much for having us here today, and we'll try and bring you up to speed on where we're at and what we've been doing over the last few years. So brought some informational binders with us this morning, one for each councillor. And what we did, we looked at back in 2019, we seemed to not be able to get our message out to the public as well as what we hoped we could. So we tried a few different things, and so our board finally decided, well, why don't we do an informational binder? People come to the lake and they buy $1 million house, but it doesn't have a user manual. So we decided we would put something together, and it took us about a year to do and a whole bunch of money, but we finally succeeded in doing it. So just to bring you up to speed a bit, we're a non-profit organization. We have a board of 18 members. So we have a large board, but very diverse group. Some live at the lake and not necessarily them all. So our mission statement is to work towards and enhance the watershed in general for all, not just humans, but those that don't have a voice. So we've worked with that over a number of years, and getting our message out to the public on use of the land and use of the lake and the overcapacity of the lake and who should use it, who shouldn't use it, why, all of that. And so it's been a real challenge, but the informational binder that we delivered was welcomed by a lot of folks, and all of the folks that we did deliver to, we're about 400 at the moment. We did 450 binders in total. So they've been asked to go through the binder. We hired a consultant in 2019 to put all of the 43 years of information that we have, we put it into one package and try and come up with a conclusion on really where do we want to put our resources and our efforts. And so they concluded that there's a lot of effort put into the lake itself, but very little effort into the watershed itself. So what we decided to do is that we would concentrate on the tributaries entering the lake, see what that brought us first, and then we could maybe go on to trying to help the lake and maintain it for years to come. So that's kind of where we're at. So a number of people have been involved in doing studies as well as the watershed over the years. It seems like the study gets done and then we don't take it to that next step. So we're now at the next step. We're going to push it forward. Really enthusiastic board that we have, and so we're going to try and get it in front of the people and have the folks themselves make some decisions, not top down or bottom up, that type of thing. So that's kind of where we're at today. We're just completing our sampling program for 2021 winter, or 2022, I'm sorry, winter event, and 2022 spring runoff event. So that's all in progress now. We'll complete that sometime this week, and we'll be compiling that with the same consultant as we used in 19 to take that now one step further and to try and draw some more conclusions. So with that, we're trying to put the whole thing together, and Dean and his crew are just fantastic helpers, and we have to thank the county for helping us over the years. It's just been tremendous. We couldn't do it without you. So that's kind of where we're at. So open for questions, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you very much. And my first just a comment and a thank you. You know, Wizard Lake is one of the key recreational features in our county. And we do, from a county perspective, absolutely appreciate how hard you work as a watershed group to ensure that the lake, or work to ensure that the lake is healthy, and you're working on behalf of all of our residents. And we greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Smith, and then Councilor Lewis.
just a question, again, getting a lot of reports from action development, people that want to be in that area and develop. I'm just wondering, in BC, it's pretty typical that a lot of lakes aren't allowed to have motorboats on them, and they're either electric boats, battery. I see lots of complaints about water quality, boating risk. Do you have the authority, or who has the authority to eventually one day control the boat traffic for safety as well as pollution?
That's the unfortunate part, nobody. To make a long story short. Fish and Wildlife, they do their thing for the fish, the RCMP.
What is it that Fish and Wildlife?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Blake. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Blake. Finish your comment, right? Fish
Okay.
and Wildlife takes care of part of it.
Yeah, they're the fishing part end of it and do their thing. They're on the water. They come out annually and help us out and come to some workshops and the likes of that as well. The RCMP are very restricted. They can't enforce speed. They say that their regulations and equipment doesn't allow that on the lake. So there's no regulation there. The federal government, they back off completely and said, well, you know, it's not our job. So we just.
Unless you're burning carbon, and then you'll get something from the federal government. So in the long story short, if I might follow up, you have no say over the boats on the lake. It's just going to be a risky situation until somebody steps up.
Well, yes, exactly. Yes. And we have had some, and it's very unfortunate. And the last couple of years have just been crazy, summer and winter, not just only summer, it's winter as well.
And again, it was just something I'm glad you're saying, because I thought about it. Just the control on that whole.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, you know, people live next to the water. We have people come in, they chop a tree down in the front yard, haul it out on the lake and burn it. You know, that would never happen in the city. It doesn't happen in the county. Why does it happen in ours?
Yes, thank you. So I have Councilor Lewis and then Councilor Belos.
Thank you, Blake. I've seen this binder a couple times, and it's nice to see the final work, including information on how to develop around the lake with information from the county. Out of 400 binders, how many have you handed out to residents?
We're a little bit, I think 401 now as we speak, and we were late getting them out last fall. So some of the summer type of people were already gone before we got around to them. We'll finish them up this spring for sure.
Well, this is absolutely amazing information package. Thank you.
Councilor Belos, just a reminder for your microphone as well, please. Got it. You're good?
Yeah, I'm good to go. First of all, Blake, I'd like to thank you for making this presentation. Many of you don't know that Blake and Linda have been sitting in on our Pigeon Lake Watershed Steering Committee meetings for a number of years now. So we've been avidly working together with both lakes to help us, to help each other. And it's been a great asset to have them there. we share ideas back and forth, and it's really appreciated that you guys do that. So it's just a thank you from us at the Pigeon Lake Watershed for you, having you sit in, and again, appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. You said you were finishing off your runoff, for the spring runoff.
Right.
Just general thoughts. Was it more or less than you were expecting?
Actually, we thought we would get more, but it's sufficient to sample. So
Okay.
we sampled 10 locations and we take 10 different items each location. So we get a broad spectrum of the lake,
Yeah.
mostly on the south side,
Okay.
both ends of the lake and then down the south side. The riparian area on the north side of the lake is quite narrow,
Great.
so we don't get.
So, because this is a runoff lake, or it does have a spring or a tributary coming in? I know Conjuring Creek comes out of it, but does it have something going into it, Blake?
Well, there's 7 tributaries that we monitor, going into the lake.
Okay.
And the springs as well.
Oh, so there are some springs.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a ruling yet, is it spring fed or
Right.
runoff, right?
Okay.
But our level stays fairly constant throughout the year.
Yeah, and again, I was surprised that there wasn't more runoff in Conjuring Creek. So I was wondering if you had seen less than what you expected at the lake, because we saw less than what we expected in our creek.
Yeah, the lake is not up to the top of the weir.
Oh,
yet.
it is.
We've gained about an inch in the last
Okay.
couple of weeks, but it's not flowing over the weir yet. So
That's why. Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions? Seeing none, again, on behalf of County Council and all our residents, thank you for your work. It is hard work, it's volunteer work, it's work done from your hearts, and I know that, and it is greatly appreciated. So thank you for that, and Dean, thank you for all the support you provide them. With that, I'll ask for someone to move this report for information. Councillor Balazer, any further questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to report 4B, which is a STARS update. And are you doing an introduction? Thank you, Mr. Honesty. You're quite busy this morning.
Thank you. Actually, it's just the easy work, so it makes it nice. We've asked Glenda to join us for an annual update from STARS. As council is aware, we support STARS through our annual council grants program. And through that, we've asked her to come and provide an annual update to us on the progress and the good work that they do throughout Alberta, but also through Leduc County as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Glenda.
Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to see all of you again in person. So
Agreed.
I appreciate this so much. It's just, I'm thrilled. So I'm Glenda Farndon. I'm the Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS. So I've had the pleasure of working with your council for many years now and really appreciate your continued support. It's very much a partnership. And it is your partnership that allows STARS to provide critical care anywhere. So we'll start with the COVID pandemic continues and STARS does remain under strict protocol
Oh, you do.
to protect our operations. So we're taking a very slowed approach to reintegration. STARS transport physicians continue to provide critical care guidance and assist healthcare professionals with airway management, ventilation, and resuscitation procedures. And we continue to see an increase in stress-related types of missions as well. So, for example, heart attack, stroke, drug overdose, approximately 1 in 5 missions are still COVID-related. The positive work that's happening behind the scenes in the STARS Emergency Link Center, they are an immediate 24/7 safety network. They have access to every available resource, including GIS mapping, as well as preset coordinates to help locate a patient. They receive over 32,000 emergency requests every year. Of course, that we would not fly on all of those missions. STARS flies for critical care. So if it's not deemed critical, then other resources, of course, will be dispatched. There is approximately a 1-to-10 ratio for STARS missions flown. So in other words, if a rural area like Leduc County were to see, let's say, approximately 10 missions flown per year by STARS, then it's very likely that STARS has assisted your community, your local physicians, as well as your first responders with approximately 100 emergency requests that year through our transport physicians providing medical oversight, as well as virtual consultation with your local doctors at your local hospitals that serve your residents. So regardless of how a patient is transported, they may go by ground ambulance, Alberta Health Services fixed wing, or STARS. It is our transport physicians that are providing that medical guidance and oversight, and they are the link for us to be able to provide critical care anywhere. There's also a new pilot project. Down one. Right there. A new pilot project launched with transport physicians now taking a shift in the Emergency Link Center, and it's proving to be extremely effective. It's completely exceeded our expectations. STARS crew, they administer the critical care while en route to the hospital in the helicopter, and our transport physicians are now saving precious time on the back end by coordinating the complex logistical arrangements with the receiving hospitals for such things as booking and scheduling a neurosurgeon, or the cardiac cath lab, or the CAT scanner, which is mandatory for a stroke patient. So in time-dependent cases like a brain bleed, for example, minutes count. An additional request where this pilot project is being shown as instrumental. We've seen multiple drownings, backcountry and horse-related injuries that are occurring in non-accessible access areas, a plane crash, multiple pediatric head traumas at ski hills, and of course, we have continued to assist with multiple critical COVID patients. Physicians are now making virtual face-to-face decisions using real-time diagnostics. And the result is immediate, direct delivery of that patient to an operating room. We're seeing patient outcomes that are much improved. It is a game changer. So the pandemic has impacted our revenue in all funding areas. The long-awaited HEMS review released by the government of Alberta posed several recommendations, which included the fact that they're looking for new air ambulance legislation, STARS to be named as the dedicated air ambulance critical care provider in Alberta, and of course, increased funding for STARS. The government had indicated that they will continue with consultations before any final decisions were made. So in the meantime, they had extended the same 20% government funding for STARS this year. Now, just recently released, Alberta Health Services announced the increase of support for STARS to 50% to cover our base operation costs. This increase in funding brings Alberta in line with the government operational funding that we have currently received from Saskatchewan and Manitoba governments. After 37 years of serving Albertans, we sincerely appreciate being recognized for the significant role that we play in providing critical care in Alberta. With the increasing demands for STARS as well, we continue to rely on vital support provided from life-saving partners like you. This will help to sustain the other remaining 50% operational costs, as well as mandatory education for our crews, enhanced innovation and technology, outreach training for rural communities. These things are not covered in those operational costs. So we want to be able to serve for many generations to come. The pandemic forced us to think outside the box and be proactive. So we identified operational as well as fundraising efficiencies. We even sadly had to downsize staff members in affected areas like events, for example, across all 6 bases. Our STARS lottery is our single largest funding source for STARS. And because of this, In 2021, we went ahead with the lottery despite the pandemic. And Albertans continue to stand by our side. That particular lottery sold out. Now, the 2022 lottery just finished. The draw date is April 7th, so it's
Ooh.
coming up. So if you've got a ticket, like, stay tuned. But it was deemed as our second most successful lottery. So still, it's a major factor in what provides funds for bases in Alberta. Calendar campaign has significantly decreased with the inability in the past 2 years to travel or have any presence in rural communities. Municipal partners across the province offered to help, and calendar sales were held at many town offices across Alberta. But then again, new wave of the pandemic, and most of those offices remained closed. So it really has affected that. We're grateful to many rural communities as well that could not host their annual fundraisers. And so they hosted online 50/50s and raffles instead, and that really did help. And we also went as far as to develop a new multi-provincial radiothon that has proven to be extremely successful, and we're hoping that'll be one of our major new events. Let's have a look at the 5-year mission overview for Leduc County. Mission rates are increasing across the entire province. 90% of the missions flown within Leduc County are for rural scene calls or search and rescue as well. And 10% are inter-facility critical transfers. STARS assists RCMP with search and rescue. We can be out the door in a minute and immediately begin the search while RCMP are assembling their search and rescue teams. And typically, many times, these types of calls also involve a medical component. Leduc
Excuse me,
County.
Glenda, are you taking questions during, or do you want questions after? I apologize for interrupting
Oh,
you.
no worries, no worries. Whatever you would prefer.
I see Councillor Vandenberg just had his hand up, so maybe he has something.
Either way, I'm good. You didn't specify at the beginning. So the search and rescue.
Councillor Vandenberg, your microphone, please.
On the search and rescue side, is that a user pay then? Who is subsidizing that?
It is just a memorandum of understanding that we have between our partnerships as a part of the chain of survival.
So you bill for that service?
No, we do
So-
not.
So the fundraising for the purpose of providing medical service extends to search and rescue as well?
We only start the search.
Still costs money to put the chopper on.
Definitely, but it's more of, as I said, it's a partnership working with our, it's also involving on the benefit of the patient side, because many times that involves a medical component. And it's a very small window, like it's maybe 1% of all of our missions.
Thank you.
It's a very small part, so it's more on the fact that these are our chain of survival partners that we work with every day.
Okay, thank you.
So in the past 2 years, we've seen a significant increase in Leduc County requests. Although during COVID, it has not shown increase in critical interfacility transfers in your area from your local hospitals, but it does significantly show an increase in scene calls in your area. Of these missions over the past 2 years, this represents approximately $150,000 in service value each year to your residents that's provided by STARS services. Emergencies do not always happen close to home. Leduc County residents may be flown in neighboring municipalities as well, and these would not be reflected in your local statistics here within your boundaries. The value of our partnership is testament to your residents that they have access to STARS, whether it's in their daily travels or whether they happen to be traveling across Western Canada. So municipal partnerships are vital to STARS. The green areas represent our current municipal supporters across Alberta and even into northeastern BC. Like you, municipalities recognize STARS as an essential service. We're a vital asset of emergency protective services as well. Approximately 90% of Alberta rural and urban municipalities have united in regional partnerships like Leduc County, along with your municipal neighbors. We also have a few in the northern area and a couple in the southern area, regional partnerships now, where every town and village within a county's boundaries are also supported. So it's a solid regional effort. We thank you for your continued support. The majority of commitments across the province are pledged at a $2 per capita rate per year and range up as high as $90 per capita. Many municipalities recently now are even moving to an annual fixed rate in their budgets in order to provide sustainability and less fluctuation. So 7 municipalities that you see in the red boxes have also received logo recognition, having cumulative support that has reached well over $1 million. There was a massive undertaking to even consider the next one, the $138 million fleet campaign. It seemed almost impossible. And of course, not knowing at the time, we were also going to be amid a global pandemic. The previous aging legacy fleet, we faced dire challenges. Parts were no longer being manufactured or available. Our BK-117s were approaching 40 years old. This was coupled by the fact that there was extended wait times for delivery, and it basically forced our hand that we needed to look at tackling a capital campaign. Federal, provincial, and municipal government embraced the vision of having a new fleet to serve for the generations to come. And we're humbled at the generosity of how many individuals, corporate, and municipal donors, and with very recent gifts that we just received, we are finalizing the initial $138 million fleet campaign that provided for 9 of these H145s. What you may not know is that because of the increasing mission volumes over the past 2 years, it was decided last year that we would also purchase a 10th helicopter and take advantage of the pricing that we had in our current contract with Airbus. The anticipated proceeds yet to come from the sale of our previous legacy fleet, it could generate as much as $15 million, but of course, this is going to depend on market value as well as the rate of the US dollar at the time. But these funds will be attributed towards the 10th helicopter. We're excited for the final 2 to arrive in just a few weeks. Everything's been delayed due to COVID, pilot training, the delivery of the helicopters. It's been a real challenge. But now the final 2 of the 9 will be coming in the next 2 weeks. One will be for Grand Prairie to serve the north, and one will be for Edmonton, which will serve your area as well. This H145 outperforms the BK-117 in speed, range, and fuel efficiency. You can see the unique tail, the Fenestron tail. It provides increased maneuverability, decreased noise and vibration, and of course, superior with safety features over the previously exposed, fully exposed tail rotor that we had with the BK-117. This H145 is breakthrough technology. Like the previous BK-117s, it has powerful twin engines. The cockpit features advanced avionics as well as autopilot and auto hover. It's reducing pilot fatigue, especially in complex back-to-back missions. The 5-bladed system now has increased lift and load capacity, which will be very beneficial in complex terrain. And of course, we're going to see reduced cost because it requires less maintenance. There's fewer scheduled hourly maintenance requirements, as well as the fuel efficiency. We expect that pilot training will be completed, hopefully by the end of May, and that we can be fully H145 operational across all 6 bases by June or July of this year. The state-of-the-art intensive care unit, with the world-class expertise of our STARS crew, the critical care nurse and advanced life support paramedic, and our transport physicians working behind the scenes in the Emergency Link Center, This, and now with the latest in cutting-edge diagnostic tools and the ability to transmit test results to the STARS physicians in the Link Center and the doctors at the receiving hospitals. It also has communication advancements like Bluetooth, integrated Wi-Fi, satellite connectivity. Together, this all brings positive results. And again, STARS being able to provide critical care anywhere. STARS was born out of necessity. We've been serving Albertans now since 1985. More than 45,000 missions flown, and at no cost to our patients. We thank you, Leduc County, for an amazing life-saving partnership that we've shared with you since 1992. We celebrate 30 years of being together. We do recognize and respect that 2022 budgets are in place, and our request that I'm putting forward for you is for your consideration of an increase in support to start in 2023. This request that I'm asking of you would align your council and residents along with your neighboring municipalities and provide for approximately 2 missions per year within your area for your residents, but also continue to provide sustainability for STARS services in your area. Many other municipalities have moved to an increased fixed rate of support that will help alleviate fluctuation that we've been experiencing on the per capita rate with a lot of population changes, as well as it provides for ease in municipal budgeting as you move forward. So we kindly ask you to consider an increase of support to $15,000 per year, providing those 2 missions per year out for your area. This is based on roughly a $1 per capita. So in your area, if there's interest, like for some of your neighboring municipalities, Brazo County, Panoka, Camrose, Beaver County, they're all at a $2 per capita rate. And Wetaskiwin 2 years ago raised theirs to $1.50 per capita. So it would just align you well with your neighbors. In closing, a life is saved every day, and partnerships are what make this possible. You are STAR's reason for being. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glenda, for that presentation. And certainly when I zoomed into the photo of what's inside the helicopter, it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal when you start looking at the equipment and the types of what you use to save lives. So with that, I'm open for any questions that council might have or comments. Councillor Vandenberg.
Thank you for your presentation. And for context, I served as a POC for many, many years and personally have landed STARS. So I get, and my wife was flown by STARS. My question is, do you provide, a couple questions, do you provide exclusive services to Saskatchewan, Manitoba? And I'm hearing that Southern Alberta has their own. Can you clarify that?
Okay. Well, we have 6 bases across the 3 provinces. So we have developed in 2011, we did develop a base in, first in Manitoba. So originally Manitoba asked us to come on a contract for just a couple of weeks and help with the flood situation. So we did take a helicopter and go there on a contract basis. And then the following year, they had the same thing occur, and they asked us once again on a contract basis for approximately 1 week to come and assist them. But this time they said, we do not want you to leave. We will work with you, our Manitoba government. And they started out at a 100% government funding so that they could have STARS available in their area. That was followed immediately by Saskatchewan government saying, well, we're right in between Alberta and Manitoba, and we want what you have. And so they worked with us and have always provided since 2011, 50% funding in that area. So going forward then, with those bases established, that's really changed the face of things. We still have maintained the 3 bases in Alberta itself. We are now out of Manitoba, working very closely with Manitoba Health as well, that we are now also fixed wing. So they provide fixed wing. We utilize our crews. We have second crews going on fixed wing as well. Now more recently, that's being established here in Alberta as well, where in certain cases, if it's inclement weather, whatever, but critical care is needed and necessary, then our crews are going by ground ambulance in order to be able to provide that critical care to the patients as well as on fixed wing. So we're slowly continuing to evolve and increase that opportunity to bring that critical care level expertise. And
Southern Alberta?
In Southern Alberta, thank you. So in Southern Alberta, there is HALO. What a lot of people don't know is we dispatch HALO as well as HERO out of Fort McMurray. So of course, yes, if an incident occurs like close into, say, Medicine Hat, for example, it doesn't make sense to have that patient lying on the side of the road and staying there while we're trying to be en route from Calgary. Of course, we're going to dispatch them. The thing is that they can have that patient into, at least to the hospital, getting care while we are still en route to come. So the second piece of that, though, is with the virtual care now that our transport physicians in the Emergency Link Center can provide, virtually one-on-one physician consultation with those physicians at Lethbridge Hospital or at Medicine Hat Hospital and still be overseeing the critical care while we are en route in order to get that patient and to bring them back to tertiary care. So there's several different areas where we are still, interjecting and providing that critical care piece.
Thank you.
Counselor Smith?
Thank you for that. Again, thank you for the presentation today. It's always an honor to be able to subsidize the rural ambulance services. We know ambulance is very difficult to come by in the sometimes hit and miss. So it's a very important part. I see you have an increase ask. Of course, that'll have to be discussed by council in budget for the following year, but I do support us giving you some more dollars. We give a lot of dollars into the community for culture and recreation. But again, I think it's important that we provide, and again, that's just my opinion. Council will have a chance to weigh in and budget, but I would definitely support an increase. I'm not sure what that is right now.
Thank you very much.
So Counselor Smith, did you want to make a motion to accept for information and refer to budget?
Sure, I'll receive this report, receive his information and move the ask to budget 2023.
Okay, Counselor Vandenberg wants to.
And I'm being careful with other questions that might be tabled. Just a comment, and once again, I appreciate very much what's going on here. But the search and rescue part, and I don't understand your protocol, so qualify that, but please take the comment back. If that's part of the services, that's fine. Please make it transparent so people understand that. And more importantly, there's technology and training that have to go along with search and rescue that's completely different than that of medical. So it's just so that I have an understanding that in fact, those bases are covered, I'm good. But for the sake of convenience and you fly a nurse and a doctor out there just to look for somebody, medically related or not, I don't know. I think there's an opportunity to be a little bit more transparent to the services that STARS can offer. And more importantly, that to ensure that we have the right people specially trained with the right LiDAR, heat-seeking type of equipment, and so on.
Okay,
On these extras.
I appreciate that. I think I need to clarify. We don't go on every single search and rescue. It is very, very rare. Now, depending on the information that RCMP has provided to us, that there may be, in fact, a medical component attached. That is one of the criteria that would identify whether or not we would begin to start the search, or if there's other components where they know that they're not going to be able to aptly get their search and rescue team going. So it's a very, very minimal that we would ever do this. I only pointed this out because there happened to be one within your county itself. So on the average of like, let's say a whole year across the entire province, we might go on 2 or 3 at the most. And it's only if it warrants that there's well-known information that it is likely going to include some serious medical component. So it's not every single mission
Thank
at
you for
all.
qualifying that, because it didn't specify that in your presentation.
Yes.
So that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to accept for information and refer to 2023 budget. So any discussion or debate on that? I am seeing no hands, so I will call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thanks again, Glenda, for your presentation. Please, 30 years, wow. Please provide, that seems like a long time. Please provide back to your staff our appreciation for the work that you guys do to help keep our community safe as well.
Thank you so much. I will. We definitely appreciate your continued long-term partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
And Dean, is this your last presentation this morning? Oh, there's the new Airbus.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
On to Mr. Nelson, who's bossing around the RCMP right now. it appears. Come on up here. And welcome, gentlemen, when you get settled. Are you doing a bit of a presentation, Mr. Nelson, or just going to introduce themselves and move ahead?
The second one, Madam Chair.
Okay, so once everyone's settled, just introduce yourselves and then the floor is yours to begin whatever presentation you have.
I'll introduce my, good afternoon, or good
Morning.
morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'll introduce, this is our Inspector Jeff
Hi, Jeff.
Macbeth, and Dwayne Moore from Thorsby. So Jeff is from, of course, Leduc Detachment. Just wanted to introduce them here and let them speak a little bit on behalf of the RCMP, who are planning their priorities and so forth for the next fiscal period. So with that, I will turn it over to them. Jeff.
Thanks, Clarence. Hello, everybody. Some of you have appeared before past meetings, but the first time before Mayor and Council, so thank you. As Clarence said, I'm Inspector Jeff Macbeth. I've been in Leduc since September of last year. So after 8 months, I've got a pretty good grasp of the way we're doing business and some things that I think we need to change. So today we're going to talk to you about our annual performance plan, and I believe many of you know about that, but if not, it's essentially the goals of the detachment in partnership with you and some of our other elected officials that we meet with to set what those goals look like for the year and how are we going to achieve those. So there's not much of a change in our plan as far as what the general 3 topics are. So we're going to stick with crime reduction. I believe that's very important for all of us. It's important for the residents of Leduc County. It's important for the residents of Leduc as well as the town of Kalmar. Traffic enforcement is a new one this year that wasn't on the plan last year, and that's for many reasons. One, Leduc City itself has mentioned it to me in many meetings about the speeding and some other distracted driving stuff that's going on within the municipality. But when you look at Leduc County and some of our crime statistics that we get every quarter, the top 3 issues that we saw were speed, other moving violations, and of course, motor vehicle collisions. Anytime you increase the speed, there's much more danger on the road for everybody else. So when you look at our top 3 issues for your specific area, they're all traffic related. Then we start to get into the criminal code stuff afterwards. So I would ask that traffic enforcement be put down on there. And one of the things that I would look at for the initiatives there would be working on JFOs or joint force operations, creating those partnerships and strengthening them. But then mandating with the members to have offender contacts. So typically in the past, you would see an agreement like this say, speeding tickets issued, violation tickets issued. Rather than forcing the members' hands and actually going out there and issuing the ticket, you put down offender contact. So you're still creating that contact, you're still correcting behavior, but it would result in either a written warning or a written violation notice instead of, if I was to stop a car, I'd probably tell you to slow down and move on. Nowadays, if you get stopped by me, you're definitely getting out because I don't know how to write a ticket. So nowadays, all the members, it's access to a computer where you scan a driver's license, the ticket's pre-filled, not back when, Dwayne and I first joined, we got to handwrite everything. So it's much easier now. So those written violations are easier for the members to hand out. The other thing with that contact that you see, nobody driving by knows if the ticket's been issued or not or what happened. But the minute you see the police, you start to pay attention to your driving, you check your seatbelt, you slow down a little bit. So you're educating the 30 or 40 or 3 people that drive by while that's happening. So it's still important and you get the outcome that we need. And then the last one that I would be looking at is community engagement. We had that on last year's APP to some degree, and I want to change this up a bit. And the reason why is, much as you heard the lady from STARS speak, we've gone through 2 years of a global pandemic, which is, stay away from people. At one point early on, we told our members, don't have proactive vehicle stops because you want them to stay safe. Now I think we need to get back out there in the community. I think we need to stress that to the membership, that is one of the foundations of the Mounties, being involved in the community for positive reasons, not always a negative side of being arrested or issued a ticket. And then the other thing with that would fall on me would be to conduct 2 town halls. We conducted one last year within the city of Leduc. This year I'd be looking at doing one within the city and one within the county, where we get out into the public, talk about our objectives and our goals, talk about our partnerships and some of the things that we're achieving and some of our crime stats. So that's what I put forward to you for on behalf of Leduc Detachment would be crime reduction, traffic enforcement, and community engagement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nice and tightly bound up there. So any comments on the 3 areas? I really do appreciate the crime reduction, prevent and reduce property crime. And I really appreciate it that way because I've learned over time that if I am unfortunate and my house and my yard is broken into, probably won't have the RCMP come out afterwards, is what I understand. But I think there's a lot we can do with our communities, which fits into your community hall piece too. How do you make your place more safe? Right. And I think that's really needs to be our goal. We need to move past the unlocked doors when we leave the yard. And despite the fact that many of us in a rural setting don't want to do that, it just makes sense. So
right.
Comment on rural.
So we have CPTED trained members within our detachment. So that's crime prevention through environmental design.
Right.
So in that particular situation, Mayor, where you talk about your place being broken into, we could potentially assign our CPTED member to follow up with you and come to your property and do what's called a CPTED investigation or presentation with you to say, okay, you got to trim your bushes here. You got to fix this light. You got to lock this gate. So when you talk about preventing it, that's exactly, we respond to the break and enter, but then afterwards we can follow up with you and say, here's the things we suggest you do to make it better.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. Councillor Vandenberg?
Yeah, I just want to point out that some of us sit on the Protective Services Committee. And of course, we get these gentlemen in, and in that environment, we're able to talk in a lot more detail, specifics of the programs that you're laying out, the results of what you're seeing, that sort of thing. Of course, you're a little bit time bound today in order to get into that detail, but I wanted to point out that there's a lot of good programs and a lot of good information that you bring back to us, including the results, and you're quite honest. You will say that this isn't working, so we're looking at changing it up this way. And but the detail that you do offer during our Protective Services Committee meeting is, I want to thank you for that, because that is the relevance to what you're doing.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Lewis, and then Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just to kind of follow up on what Mayor said, crime reduction and community engagement they kind of go together, right? So it's nice to see that you have both of those on your list to move forward and educate people and get out to the community to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
And thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on your enhanced road safety, and this is a shout out to Clarence. I see a lot of speed radar traps out east, and I know our enforcement services really does focus on our roads, and I see them a lot. I see them every day. They do slow me down. I know they're going to be on that road, and at times I do speed at times too. But I have to say, Clarence does a really great job of supplementing our CMP community officers working together. And complaints I get from far out Division 1 isn't actually the enhanced road safety. It's does Clarence have to work so hard, and which he does. So I mean that in the most positive way. That is something that we're looking at in that area, and that's something that they continue as crime reduction. Of course, we all want it, but we also have our own part to play. In 1940, I didn't lock my doors. I wasn't alive, but I didn't have to lock them. Today, I do. There's a lot of things when I go to the city of Edmonton that are different in how I conduct myself. Being an older person walking around, you're always looking over your shoulder. Where am I? What I'm doing? So we have a responsibility. And I just want to give the RCMP a shout out. Of course, the provincial government is saying you guys aren't our officers. You're not on our communities. Well, where the hell do you guys live? I see you in our communities. I have friends that are RCMP officers. They've retired. They've been in the province. So thank you for the work that you do. It's a thankless job. It's funny, you have community engagement. When I was a young fellow, my community engagement with the RCMP is something I never wanted. So you've got to get over that and understand that, there's a positive. It's nice to see a police officer not when it's a crime or a crisis. And it's amazing when you work with the kids in the school and it's not getting pulled over on a Friday night and says, hey, this guy or woman is human. They have children. They're in our community. So I wanted to thank you for that. And Clarence, just a quick shout out for the road safety that you bring upon us.
Well, thank you for your support.
Just to, I guess, to Mr. Nelson, the recommendation is to provide input. I think what I'm hearing today is council agrees with the 3 areas, but I don't know that we have an opportunity to provide any more input than that. Well, let's come back to the enforcement committee or protective services committee for more input, or what actually is your goal today?
Madam Chair, if it's okay with you, I'd like to modify that recommendation today to accept it as information, particularly because the next Protective Services Committee meeting is actually now in June.
Okay.
And so if it pleases you, we'll accept that as information if there's no other debate.
Just to clarify then, so what's been provided in this report are 3 potential areas for the performance plan. So perhaps if I may, the recommendation would be that council approve the 3 areas for the annual performance plan. So that gives you the authority to move forward on those 3. And again, not sure where the opportunity for input is, but there is always that opportunity with enforcement services.
I can address that, Your Worship, if I may. So one of the reasons we're here is because it's important that we speak with you, because you speak to the people in your community more than we do. So when you talk about input, it's very important for this meeting to be open, and that if you have a suggestion or an area that you don't like or an area you want us to focus on, this would be the input that you'd either provide directly to Dwayne and I or to the Protective Services Committee.
Okay, so it's not that you were expecting us to go through and say, we need more of this and we need more of this. I mean, it's just overall, these are the 3 areas we're going to work on and work through them.
Correct. And then with that, Dwayne and I are responsible for creating initiatives under each one of those goals as to, what's the objective here? And then we report that back to the committee.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
And maybe if I can just add, so I'm Staff Sergeant Dwayne Moore, so I'm in charge of the Thorsby and Breton detachment. I apologize, I have a mask on there now, but I just came back from the US and found out I fall under a 14-day requirement now. I thought they got rid of everything. Apparently not on the federal side.
Maybe you could do something.
So I'm in charge of the Thorsby Breton area, and the 3 initiatives that Leduc has are actually the same 3 initiatives that the Thorsby and Breton area have. And these initiatives have come about through consultation with groups like the Protective Services, also other information that we've received through other communities. Like I'm in charge or oversee Thorsby, Warburg, Breton. I've held 2 town hall meetings in the past couple of months where we've received information from the community themselves. I have a number of summer villages. All of those things are taken into account. We've conducted surveys, online surveys, all of that. With all the information that we've received, this is sort of, we've pared it down into the 3 main areas that are of concern. And they happen to be, Jeff did his thing and received his information and I received mine, and lo and behold, they're all the same 3 that we have in those areas. Because we're talking to similar people or people from a rural area. And these are their main concerns. So the only difference I really have is going to be on the traffic side, is more the concerns we're hearing is about more impaired driving. So that's out in my area, that's sort of where we're going to be concentrating is in regards to that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Nice to hear there were some surveys and some input, information put together, got these 3. All right, good information. Councillor Vandenberg?
Just in the fact that you mentioned the input, and because of this meeting here, you hear me talk about it all the time in public in Protective Services, is the 24/7 non-emergency. That the public still needs to understand how that works. It's a 980 RCMP. And in Thorsby it would be probably something different, but that needs to be pushed out as an initiative to allow people to understand that it's okay to call in on non-emergency. And in fact, stuff happens. So that is the stuff that you're looking for in order to create your hotspots, that type of communication activity. So I just want to remind you again, 24/7 non-emergency, 980 RCMP, get it out there so people understand it.
No, for sure. Thank you for that. And that happens to be just the Leduc
Yep.
number,
That
not
is-
necessarily the Thorsby Breton number. However, there are, and we're trying to get that information out as well as much as we can. So we have the RCMP app that's out there, and it provides, once again, everybody seems to have their phone there now, and you can go on there. The RCMP app, the other one is the Leduc Rural Crime Watch, which has an excellent app as well. And with either of those ones, you can pull up no matter where you are in the province. It knows if you allow it to track you and show your location, wherever you happen to be in this province, you'll be able to open up that app, click on the button, and it'll tell you. You just have to push dial, and it'll dial the non-complaint number associated with that jurisdiction that you happen to be in, because you may not know even within Leduc County, you're going to have, part of that is Leduc jurisdiction, and part of that's going to be Thorsby jurisdiction. So, but it'll dial the number based off of your GPS
That's
location.
a great community engagement topic right there.
And we've been trying to get that. I know, I'm sure Jeff does
Yeah.
the same thing there, that not everything is an emergency, not everything
Nope.
needs 911. And like, I always come back, and I know we talk about this in the meetings there on a regular basis, like just suspicious vehicles, suspicious people, those type of things that may seem relatively minor. Just call us on those things. Will we get to everyone? Maybe not, but any information that we can have on them, the description of the vehicle, the description of the people involved. We might even be on our way to another call and be able to come across those type of things. And then, have a contact with those people. And, it could turn out that it's something that is non-criminal in nature, or it does turn out that somebody's, skulking around in that area. They have no reason to be there. Did we find them committing anything criminal? No, but at least they know that we're out there, and it makes it a little more inconvenient for them. But we do find people, impaired drivers, warrants, stolen property, stolen vehicles, all of those type of things. So something that may seem relatively insignificant can prevent quite a bit of crime there. And I know, Jeff mentioned that at the last community town hall that I held in Breton, I brought in Leduc Rural Crime Watch, and they gave about a 25-minute presentation in regards to that, because lots of stuff that we talk about is sort of reactive. After the fact, we respond to your place that's already been broken into. But if we can prevent those things from happening, that's much more beneficial to everybody involved than it is the reactive portion. So
I believe I attended one of those open houses at Telford Hall probably 4 years ago, and somebody came in from the RCMP and said 40% of the vehicles aren't locked, and of that 40%, 20% still have the keys in them. So it was like, good work, guys.
Yeah, we do
But
that.
it's an awareness, right? It's an awareness. So it was a funny little thing, and it
Yeah.
made me go, where are my keys? We have a motion on the, Joyce, thank you very much. What really talks about the goals that are listed there. So Leduc County approved the following policing goals in accordance with the presentation done by Leduc and Thorsby RCMP detachment pertaining to the 2022-2023 annual performance plan, which is crime reduction, traffic enforcement, community engagement. I'm looking for someone to put their name. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. All right, any further comments or questions? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to Ms. Klamosko and her team with their smiling faces in the back. I like it. There you go.
Good morning, Council. So we have a report in front of you this morning for 2021 Q4 reporting. So this will be the final quarterly reporting provided for 2021. This week, we're going through our normal quarterly reporting package related to the full year for 2021. And at our next council meeting, we will be looking at our 2021 financial statements. So you will see the same information presented in a different way within the financial statements next week. This morning, the plan is to go through the report in a similar fashion as we have in previous reporting in 2021. We do have the senior management team here this morning to answer any questions that council may have. So really, this is a great opportunity this morning to ask questions related to any work, any projects that council would like to have updated information on or further information than what is provided in the package for you this morning. So with that, I will start going through the package. We do have a table of contents within the package that outlines, we just go through the various information in alphabetical order. So the first report that we have within the package is county highlights. So what we've done here is just gathered various highlights from the different department areas that occurred in Q4 and put a summary document in the county highlights document. But every department operational plan has a section in the report for their department highlights as well. So there's more information within every department report as well. So going to, I'll just go quickly through the various sections of the county highlights. If council at any time has any questions on any of the pages as we go through them, please let me know and we'll answer those questions as we go. So going to the next page, we just have revenue and expenditures, just a bar graph just showing budget in comparison to actuals. As we go through the reports in more detail, you'll be able to see variance explanations and more detailed information as we go through the package. The third page of the county highlights document talks about our real estate market activity, as well as vacant sales and improved sales with some comparative number to for the full year, as well as just for the quarter and the last quarter.
Any
Going
questions
to
on that?
Okay. The next page speaks to our NISCU vacancy rate, sits around that 7.5% range. Also highlights some development that is going on within the municipality and the status of the development, as well as some numbers on our permits for developments, building, and safety code permits. We also have the final sections within health and safety with some highlights of work that was done in Q4, as well as some information in regards to our whistleblower complaint line. Are there any questions with anything within this county highlights document?
Okay, floor is open. May I ask, under health and safety, Ms. Klamosko, audit with a score of 84%. 84 sounded good when I was in school. Is that a good score for health and safety audit?
So a health and safety audit, the pass mark is an 80%.
Yeah.
So it is a good score. Obviously, from this audit, we are in the process of developing an action plan of looking at the areas that we can do better. We always want to move forward, look for opportunities for improvement. So that action plan is being developed. We will look to be finalizing that hopefully within the next couple of weeks so that we can start rolling out improvements.
Good to hear. Any further questions on this section? Councillor Vandenberg?
Well, because I ask it every year, what's missing in the health and safety is the lost time, and it is relevant. It should reflect the 84%. It should, but it's not recorded. It's not reported. And being this is a public corporation, I think it should be lost time accidents or lost time incidents, accident, whatever the terminology is now.
Ms. Klamosko, you have a response?
So one thing that we have listed as an action item for our senior management team is to look at our quarterly reporting for 2022. So I will take that information to that discussion to see what changes, just ultimately to the entire package. We're going to have that conversation about, are there areas that we want to look to change, things that we could do in a different way. So that conversation has been scheduled to occur with SMT shortly.
Okay, thank you. Because this was we're still developing and adjusting the quarterly reporting as we go through, right?
I think with everything that we bring in front of council, there's always opportunity to reflect and see, are we hitting the mark with the questions we're hearing? Could something be presented in a more a clearer way, that kind of thing. So we want to take that time to reflect that. I think that, it's been in a constant evolution. I think we've had some additions with the strategic plan, actions and deliverables being added in 2021. So we're always looking at things that we can do and how we can improve.
Thank you. All right, so go ahead.
All right, so going next to, we have a corporate plan, and that's on page 14 of your package. So this is the report coming out of the county manager's office. Again, we have some highlights that occurred within county manager's office, and then just our deliverables. So are there any specific questions in relation to any of the information reported within the corporate plan?
Okay, corporate plan for the end of 2021. Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. On your strategy 1.2, it talked about a resident guide, which is great. I would love to see a copy to see what kind of information or calls we might get on the information that goes out.
Actually, I was just trying to, I lost track of time. We have just received our printed copy of the resident guide last week. I was thinking, was that this week? So we do have that in hand. We will look to put that information also electronically on the website. So you will be getting that information very shortly, and it is looking really good, and it's a very helpful, useful document, I think, for new residents moving into the county. Has some really great information in it. So
Perfectly timed question, Councillor Lewis. Any other questions on the corporate priorities, strategic and corporate priorities?
okay. So then going into our departmental quarterly reports, we start with administration. That's comprised with assessment services, corporate services, and finance. So on page 26, we have assessment services. Are there any questions on any information within the assessment services report?
Fourth quarter reporting on assessment services. I guess I have a question, and that's related to, again, we have COVID, and I think we've talked about this before. We have more rural security. Are we able to accurately provide accurate assessments, especially in the rural settings where those kinds of things might have created some limitations, and/or how did we manage through?
Chair, Council. What we have been endeavoring to do is reach out in written form, requests for information to ratepayers, to engage with them, to say that we might be past as well and taking a visual look.
Yep.
And then giving people a specific opportunity to connect with us to make an appointment if that's their preference, or if we really need to update that file, saying like it's been a long time since we've been there, and updating that way. And then we have some other sources of information as well that add to our knowledge and awareness.
Okay. That's good to know, because again, I mean, we have to be mindful of the safety of your staff, of our staff, and ensuring that it's not uncomfortable for people who are needing to have some sort of a visit or inspection. Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I think some of the information that should get out to residents, that it's okay that you guys go onto their property and look, like with their approval. It's not always so your taxes go up. Sometimes your taxes might go down because the information you have on record's wrong. It's happened to us, right? You had we had 2 vanities in our bathroom and we only had 1. So right. So it's sometimes there's errors that are fixed, and it might reflect positively for you.
It may. That's correct.
Any further questions? Do we, I thought, and again, I might be wrong, when the former head of assessment, I thought we leased a vehicle or something or had something that identified our vehicles as being Leduc County. And again, and that was around the safety of our assessors driving onto a farm when people are hyper vigilant about crime.
Correct.
Ms. Klamosko or Ms. Bernand?
Yes, we do have 2 assessment vehicles. They were leases that then we bought out the lease, so now they're ours, but yes, and that's what we utilize for everyone's safety awareness, all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any further questions on assessment? Okay, Ms. Klamosko.
Okay. So going to page 31, we have corporate services report.
Corporate services.
Any questions on corporate services?
I have none.
Okay.
Councillor Vandenberg does though. Your microphone, Councillor Vandenberg.
Thank you. Saw that you are seeing that you're coming under budget in each of your sectors, so that says something about prudency of how you're allocating your resources and money.
Thank you for the comment.
All right, so the next report within the package is for finance, so that would be on page 41.
Finance. Questions?
Okay.
Again, we're fairly familiar with the processes around finance. Thank you to our management for that. We do see Ms. Weiss quite a bit, and she provides those updates that keep us calm and keep us informed. And I really do appreciate that. There are no surprises in finance, and I appreciate that. I have no questions. Any questions from anyone?
No. All right, the next report within the package is on page 47, which would be agricultural services.
I was going to ask a question that's not in the report, but I won't, so I'll move ahead.
All right, not seeing any questions. The next report is enforcement services on page 58 of the package.
I do have a question for Mr. Nelson, and I do not sit on protective services. I could, but I do not go and listen. Do you provide to protective services information on where you've been providing spot patrols? I think Councillor Vandenberg called them hot spots, but that's what my dog gets in the summer, so.
Yes, Madam Council, we do have a list of places that we've been requested to,
Okay.
in addition to the information we already know based on our traffic safety plan. And yeah, we typically share that with the Protective Services Committee, and then we share it subsequently to the rest of council who are not on that committee.
Okay, Councillor Lewis.
Can you just talk a little bit about your e-ticketing? I see your data entry costs were lower because of it, which is a good thing. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we went to electronic tickets in September of last year. We invested in a little bit of infrastructure, and so that they all get done electronically now. I should say about 97% of them. There's a couple that don't, and that's done in-house now. So we no longer have to supply that data entry system. And it's completely independent of the APIS system that you might have heard through the province that's canceled that. So we're in good shape. Yeah.
Councillor Vandenberg.
You've had a decrease in activity on the commercial weights and dimensions course. Will that continue to be the same, or post-pandemic, will you be stepping into that more? What is your plan?
It's like you read my mind. Thank you for that. We just finished the first 2 days of that course last weekend, and we're finishing the final 2 days of that course this Thursday and Friday. So we delivered that half of it virtually. The other half is in person this Friday. And it's a long waiting list for additional people to take that course, and we might even do it twice this year. That would be first time ever.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
One of your variances for your enhanced policing was to do with the school resource officer revenue from Black Gold. Can you I thought we didn't fund that, so I'm not sure how we'd get a revenue.
Yeah, through the chair, I can tell you that the expenses and the revenue side of that sort of doesn't sync exactly because of the lag time in receiving invoices from the RCMP. But we actually did a midterm reconciliation with the invoices, so we're trying to keep up with that. That coincides with our fiscal period.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any more questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. Mrs. Mosco?
So the next report is on page 68, and it would be for engineering.
Questions on engineering? Excuse me.
Seeing none, I'll move to the next report is for Family and Community Support Services on page 76 of the agenda package.
I guess my only question would be, again, considering the on again, off again of COVID lockdowns, were we able to, do you believe, deliver the best we could to support? Because again, we did hear from STARS about mental health issues related to that. And how are we maybe looking at it differently for 2022? Mr. Honesty?
Yeah, thank you for that. We're very fortunate actually throughout the pandemic to be able to provide virtual support, one-on-one support. And that's actually created some new opportunities for us. So now as we enter back into homes, we have both options that we can utilize to stay in contact with our families. I think what will evolve now into the summer of 2022 is more in-person programs, events, activities that will give us more of a direct face-to-face interaction with some of the families we support and the general public, as well as seniors. I think that's one of the target areas that we're focused on right now, is to make sure we can support our seniors to be more engaged and more active throughout the summer.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Honesty? Councillor Vandenberg?
So it is interesting, unfortunately, we don't get to see the activity of FCSS and how we reach out to our taxpayers. I guess I'm not in an age bracket where I have to take advantage of a lot of the programs, but it's nice to see in the highlights. And it makes me wonder that if, we get a yearly report and then we get a quarterly report, but we get nothing in between. There's a lot of things that you're doing. And as a counselor, I don't have that information at my fingertips to be able to say, by the way, did you know? By the way, did you know? And I'm wondering, this is really stuff that really touches people in our grassroots. And this is kind of the kind of stuff that I feel as a counselor I should be more on top of, more aware of. And I don't know how we can make that better so that I can with certainty and pride say these are the things that Leduc County is doing in this realm of activities. Were you aware of all this? Mm-hmm. And I know that we have correspondence that go out from time to time, but generally speaking, people, the two-way communication, I feel, is where it sticks with people. It's not that little, if it doesn't pertain to you, you don't read it, you don't understand it, you know what I mean? So anyway, if there is a way of being more integrated on a monthly, day-to-day kind of thing, I could become a good advocate for this.
So will you have a solution?
No, just to follow up is that we presented that before council in workshop, and we're just finalizing a plan to make sure we have more detailed interaction with council. So that'll be part of in the coming months here.
Into 2022.
And for both Parks and Recreation and FCSS.
Perfect. Go ahead, Councillor Balazar.
That would be it. Yeah, Dean, over the last few years, we've had a few issues go on in Thorsby and things seem to kind of go backwards. Have we started getting that together again and heading in the right direction over there?
Yeah, so we have a good working relationship with Thorsby right now. They've just advertised for a community coordinator, and that's a vital staff person for us to connect with and support with. So I think in the next month or so, we'll be back on track there. So currently, while they don't have a staff person in place, we're providing more support within Thorsby to the Thorsby residents. And then once they have a staff person in place, we will play an active role in training, orientating, and supporting that staff member directly. There are some timely events that we're working with Thorsby to make sure that we're on top of volunteer appreciation, seniors week. Those are pretty vital community activities that we're trying to help as much as possible where needed to make sure those activities take place in Thorsby. So.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward to the updates.
Okay, so the next report is for fire services on page 117 of the package.
Questions on fire services? I always find it difficult because I'm thinking in 2022 about things that have already been done as opposed to going back to 2021. I was going to ask about our new facility here and how that's going, but I can't.
I'm sure if you'd like to ask the question, we have the fire
If
chief
the
here
chief
to
could
answer the
come
question.
forward. We did make the investment into having a full-time battalion, I don't know if that's what you call it here, to serve this area. How is that going in the first 3 months of the year?
Yes, our full-time crew here at, we call Station 9, running out of the CNOC right now temporarily, has been in operation, as you say, for 3 months, doing well, catching all the calls that are happening when they're on shift, establishing their culture as far as that balance of training, fire prevention activities, pre-fire planning, just area familiarization, all the type of stuff we expect out of a full-time crew. I see them from time to time in the back of Station 1 doing training in that building there. You'll see them driving around as well as all their call responses, which is, proving well. We're progressing on those plans, which I'll be bringing to council in May as far as next steps for the what we started last year with regards to implementing this day shift crew and the next steps in that.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a good news story. Councillor Vandenberg?
The challenge of the pandemic has been obvious, and particularly with the basis of how we provide our fire protection, and that is through the POC program. And now that we've hopefully stepped out of and we're into post-pandemic, perhaps you can agree with me to take a little bit of a breather that getting people into the POC program and up and trained is a challenge on a regular day. Multiply that with the pandemic, that probably led to a lot of unfortunate resource issues. And so I guess I'm suggesting that we need to be thankful here in the county that we have this model that we can draw on. And kudos to you and your staff for working through this. And then hopefully the fresh breath is post-pandemic, we can get people into the program up and trained so that we can provide that level of service. If you wish to comment, you can.
Yeah, and through the chair, certainly it was challenging to recruit during the last 2 years and then hold a class when we couldn't come within 6 feet of each other or be in the truck together unless we were in an emergency response. But we did manage to hold a class in each year. The one last July was somewhat shorter, but we've caught those people up now over the past number of months, and our training has resumed to normal now. And my message to our paid on call firefighters is that we need to make sure our skills are up to where we want them to be, because we did have some training, challenges over the past 2 years. And then our teamwork and our reliance on each other and just our internal confidence. We need to work on getting that. So that's where we're at now. I hope we never have to interrupt our training again. So, we're back on track, and it's good to see. We're also trying to figure out different ways of recruiting daytime responders and, making it a training program that fits if you're a shift worker, trying to think outside the box to keep attracting the numbers which we want to see.
Yeah, congratulations for working through that challenge.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for answering a question you weren't prepared. Ms. Kolbaska.
Right. So the next report in the package is for legislative on page 126 of the package.
So there's a
Okay.
$77,000 variance. Am I correct? In
That is
I-
correct.
And I appreciate, yes, there was less mileage. We did a lot of work virtually, as well as conferences and things were canceled. So that makes sense. Thank you.
Going to,
Councillor Vandenberg?
So that kind of illustrates an interesting point, and I know that administration is probably talking about that, and that is the blend of the forced technology through the pandemic into our everyday working and meeting lives. There is some advantages with the virtual, and how do you make that blend? Where do you determine that balance now? And I see that in the number reduction, which would probably occur throughout the departments. But it's an interesting tool to have. And I would be interested to hear some of the strategies around how you're going to balance that for the future, because I believe you should still incorporate it, but you need to have that face-to-face component, that ability to smirk at one another and so on. And so we're in that post period of time in which that becomes our reality now. Is where's the balance, where's the blend, what's it going to look like going forward?
I do think it will be interesting to see for the various conferences and training that we attend. It will be interesting to see what associations will do. Will they continue a hybrid type? Because I think they've seen in some instances that a virtual offering actually expands their reach extensively. So we won't be able to obviously control what that looks like post-pandemic. I would expect that some in 2022, you'll see the offering of both in some cases. So it will be interesting to see how we have changed moving forward if that continues.
Thank you. Moving on.
All right, so the next report in the package is for Parks and Recreation on page 127.
I have a question for Mr. Honesty. Do you feel that our parks were busier locally, partly because of pandemic and partly because people were closer to home, or was there no change?
No, our revenues are definitely up. It's really difficult to determine the why,
Yeah.
but I believe that it's a variation of many of those factors. And we've created quality facilities, and I think that's another factor that can't go unnoticed. So whether it's a trend, it's hard to budget and plan for it because it could drop back a little bit too, but we hope it continues.
Well, if I may then, and again, this is a little into 2022, we've already taken bookings, seasonal bookings for some of our campgrounds, is that correct? Were those up?
It was up. We cap that.
Yes.
And that's why we call it like a lottery.
Yeah.
So we apply, but we cap that because we could probably fill the whole campground with seasonals. And then today is our first day of pre-season booking.
Okay.
So for today, we take May long weekend, and for the next 3 days, you can book for the rest of the season. So that allows people to pre-plan their summer and not wait till May to book. And as we expected, it's very high demand already this morning for people looking to camp at Jubilee.
And again, the cost of gas is going to impact how far you're going to take
Correct.
your trailer perhaps this year. I have Councillor Balazer, go ahead.
Yeah, listening on the radio, rates from the province in campgrounds is going up like everything else. Have we left ours alone? Or are we thinking of adjusting them up like everybody else?
They were left for 2022, but we annually review and recommend changes if there are changes recommended. And we use the province and other campgrounds as our comparables. So we complete that annually.
Councillor Vandenberg? I'm sorry, I thought you did have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that is a trend that seems to continue pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and that is the amount of interest in these getaway campsites sort of things. Have you ever discussed maybe, is there a value or an opportunity in opening up some other areas to have people enjoy? typically if you've got a trend where you're over 100% booking consistently, there's a business case opportunity. So I'm just curious, would you talk about it? Would you consider it? Have you, et cetera?
And I think that's the trend that's changed over the last 30 years is if there is a business case as a private venture. And I think that's what's changed. We established these campgrounds 50 years ago because there wasn't a private opportunity. So I think that's what's changed, is that it's more of a viable business that maybe doesn't need municipal investment or to create. So we currently have no plans to enhance or add camping, but obviously there probably is, and I do know we hear of private interests that that might fill that gap within the region.
Any further questions? Councillor Balazer? Oh, good job.
Yeah, and again, Dean, a while back, Leduc County or we did as a council purchase some property down by the river, the old ski hill. Now, is there any thought or looking forward to start enhancing that, to start using it, or is we just kind of leaving it for now?
In 2022, we have a approved major project plan to analyze the risks. So we're looking at the road, we're looking at the access point, we're analyzing risks as phase one, and then we'll bring forward that to council with a multi-year plan on how to action that, which will include future development, talking to the community, identifying needs. So that'll be a multi-year plan that'll come forward once we first, and we're doing that as we speak, is analyze the risks and opportunities with that property.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Honesty.
So the next report in the package is for planning and development on page 136.
Grant, I have a question. I'll start it off. Page 140 of 200 of our, or I guess it's 141 probably, talks about the lean principles. And it's much like how you planners love your acronyms. I don't have it worded out. I'm assuming it's about making things lean and mean and saving money, but I don't know what lean means. So that's my only question.
Madam Chair, thanks for the question. I can maybe as a bit of a self-defense mechanism. I didn't invent this acronym. We just brought it in.
But you've adopted them wholeheartedly.
Yes, with a smile. So, Madam Chair, this is actually a defined set of process-based principles that actually derives from the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
That has some applicability to any business flow, any workflow, any process that we would run. And so this is a set of principles that I actually had some exposure to in a previous life that I thought could be quite applicable to the work that we do here, and particularly around our development approval process. And it essentially breaks down our process into its basic elements and analyzes each step and each action that we take in association with that process, and then rebuilds it essentially in a leaner form.
Make it better. It's not really that close look at what are we doing and what are we doing right and what aren't we doing right.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much for that explanation, and look to hear how it works in 2022. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Just under your highlights, I just want to make note that year to date, when a year that seemed like it was so slow moving, there was over $129 million worth of permits and safety codes and construction values. That's huge for our county, and I just wanted to make note of that.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bain on planning and development?
The next item in the report is public transit on page 146.
Do we have, oh, no, it's not about this question. Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
I was just going to ask who this department will now fall under now that Mr. Thomas is no longer with us.
It'll move under engineering. So Des will have oversight, and Des reports to me. So,
Councillor Smith.
I'm just wondering, again, a news story last week was there has been funding secured for a tube train to run from Heritage Park and Ride on until the international airport, some 600 million bucks or something. Are we aware of that? And that probably will change our transit needs if we have that first leg allegedly. So there was somebody in to do a railway to Calgary, and now there's a second group doing high speed, which is 1,000 kilometers an hour. And there was an announcement last week that the Alberta government has signed off. There's funding they were going to build from Edmonton to our airport. So that, again, just a heads up if no one's aware, that allegedly has been announced. See it to believe it, right? But it'll definitely change our transit needs.
Comment from the county manager?
Yeah, so there's $655 million of private funding that they've secured. The plan is to do an initial test track. So they'll test out the concept. If it's workable, then they have, I think, 3 or 4 alignments between here and Calgary that they're looking at. It would be all privately funded is the plan. Anticipation is they could be up and running by 2030 with passenger movements between downtown Edmonton, Red Deer, and Calgary, downtown Calgary.
It's a lot of.
I think there's a lot of testing that needs to occur. I don't think they're going to achieve the speeds that they're inferring they can achieve, but it is doable technology for sure from what I've seen and researched. But it would definitely change a lot of the transit sort of thoughts in the region for sure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belazar?
Yeah, adding to that, Councillor Smith and Dwayne, I did see that too. Now, that sounds like a lot of money that's come forward, but in the big picture, we're talking, they said 13, 14 billion dollars. So this really, at the end of the day, is just seed money. Really, is what it amounts to. So I don't know how far this is really going to go.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Vandenberg?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen with that pricing and how we move around, but my question would be, the transportation master plan spends some time commenting on this possibility, because this could roll out if it's successful. We have a world that's full of successful rail. If it's successful, does it come?
Yeah, I've referred it to Des to ask him to look how it might impact some of our transportation master plan, with the realization that this system is about straight line technology. It's not designed to be curves and loops and catching the Kalmars and the Thorsbys. This is designed to be straight line, high speed, get you to Calgary in under an hour and 30 minutes. But it would definitely change the trajectory of transportation between Edmonton and potentially the airport, for
Yeah,
sure.
because we could hop on our horse and buggies here in the future and just go to this point and catch it.
Yep. What it will really push is the desire then for those outlying communities to have connectivity to a hub, whether it's at EIA or somewhere in Niski or whatever that, theoretically it makes sense at EIA, but the demand and the pressure then would become for us to be the last link or last mile connection. And what would that look like from a transit piece?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So the next report in the package is on page 148, and it's for road operations.
Start with a comment and then a question. One of the things that has made a significant difference from a rural perspective was the Rural Road Initiative. Spent some time over the weekend taking a look at some of those spots that you fixed in Division 5 down by 274, 275, 492, all of those holding up really, really well. Holding up well. What are you seeing, or what did you guys see during the year with how well those held up from the ones done before? Are we doing the right kind of work for those spot repairs? I know we have the next ones chosen, but are they holding up, Mr. Broadman, or is that just my small world where they're holding up?
Yeah, over the last 3 work days, I've put on probably 1,100 kilometers looking at many different locations in our municipality. And you're correct, they are holding up because we've secured a base course in those places, right? Whereby there was a crust of gravel, but there was no base course material. And that's essentially what we've added to all of those areas. I mean, we have had the perfect runoff to date. You know, we are like, things are in really good shape, relatively speaking. I would anticipate in the next week, frost is going to we're going to start seeing things boil up here in the next week and a half. So it will really be, I mean, there's still frost on the ground. That frost is pounded into our roads. We attempted to start scratching it, replacing a culvert, just thinking it might be an idea, and there was no hope, right? So there is still, the frost needs to come out, and then a better evaluation here in the next couple of weeks will be had. But yeah, I firmly believe the work that we are doing is the right affordable work.
Yep. Go ahead, Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, I guess just a note, I see the graders have been out and working on pulling the roads back up and getting that gravel spread out, and it's working beautifully right now. The moisture's just perfect for them to get them back in shape. But as you were saying, all of a sudden I'm starting to see the little spots where the water's squirting up in the middle of the roads. So yeah, our boils and whatever are
They're still to come.
about to show if they're going to. So
I did make a comment, Mr. Broadbent, on the county manager's truck today, wondering if he had been driving on county roads because it was pretty mudded up. And he claimed, no, it was not county roads he was on, which gave me great pride, driving on other country roads in other municipalities. So, Councillor Vandenberg?
Just a couple of things. Last year was an interesting year. So there must be some degree of analysis, learnings, takeaways from an interesting year of a variety of climate change. Not that I didn't mean it for it to sound that way, but the raining and the freezing and the snowing and the high winds and the raining and the freezing. So there's got to be some sort of conversation around the analysis. Well, what are the learnings, the takeaways that you learn from that is the first thing I'd like to hear from you. And then the second thing is we did put through, and it was successful, a resolution through the Ag Service Board for the management of our county type right-of-ways, a fee for service to take care of the sprayings and that sort of thing. Any progress on that from the government itself? Have they come back and said yay or nay and so on? Those are my two.
So with regards to the learnings of the ice type conditions, response times are critical, right? So what we found, I mean, the weather was so variable that at any point in time, an operator trying to deal with a frozen type condition with the sand and salt that they're applying could have been the single worst thing that they actually did, because then the wind picked up in a bit of snow and it just built that ice pack, right? So I think what becomes critical for our operators and the supervising foreman is the right application at the right time. And we have, and this is a testament to the staff that are on the roads, we are injecting a couple new operators who have a lot of incredible experience to add to our already experienced staff who have incredible experience at managing icy type road conditions for other highway service contractors in the area. So that's going to add a lot to it. Inevitably, salt breaks ice, right? The need for us to apply salt on our roads is critical. The amount of salt we put on probably surpassed the last 10 years, any other year in application, just based on trying to break up that ice. And we were able to achieve it, but it's only through hitting it at the right time and have some sun exposure to it. So there are things that we learned, but again, response time is critical. Good staff is critical, and I feel, and again, this is knocking on wood, we did an incredible job, given the conditions that were, and really, you know, I always look at, you know, how many vehicles were in the ditch, how many were there intersection, you know, accidents, and again, you know, that we were very fortunate. But there have been definite learnings. But, you know, and is this the new normal? I don't know. I can't see that it is, but we'll be ready regardless.
And your second question, Councillor Vandenberg?
Yeah. Regarding Alberta transportation right-of-ways.
Yep.
Yeah. Their highway maintenance. So what I've seen to date, you know, just in terms of the overall right-of-way maintenance and pothole patching, is they've been fairly responsive to some pothole patching just in the last month. But again, does that translate into a full year of maintenance activities? I don't know, but they've been, you know, just in the last month, they've seen some pothole patching done in our municipality, whereby I was surprised to see how responsive they were.
Well, and thank you for that. I was talking more specifically about the ability for a county to take care of the mowings and the management of weeds within our jurisdiction on provincial highways, but get paid a fee for service.
Yeah, I'm unaware right now if any more conversation has been had regarding that. I know at a provincial level there are some municipalities that do it. Again, our highway service contractor right now in years past hasn't been, and the province hasn't been too interested in doing it, and nor are we in a position to do it yet at all anyway. So it would be a long conversation and transition about how we would do it and funding.
Thank you.
And stuff. And
any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
So the next section is for utilities on page 155 of the package. So under utilities, we have water distribution, wastewater collection, and waste management.
Questions on utilities, Q4 2022.
Okay, the next.
Just a minute, Ms. Klamosko, if something strikes somebody, they can just get a hold of you directly or the manager of that department directly. What would you rather?
If any questions come up after we've concluded here, absolutely, you can send messages to myself or the director of the department to answer. Thank you.
Moving on.
So the next report is on page 165 and fiscal services.
Questions on fiscal services?
Okay. And then the next report within.
Sorry, Councillor Vandenberg.
So, Ms. Klamosko, is this to do with our investments, this section? More so?
So on the second page of the report, we do have an investment summary. So if you go to page 166, there is a summary of investment activity.
Because in your comments, interest revenue is lower than anticipated. So with the program that's set up, is it also allowing that communication? The world is in turmoil. Investments are all over the place. A lot of movement towards tangible asset type things, staying away from stock. So when it comes to the monies that we have invested on behalf of the county, do you have conversation with CIBC saying, you know, maybe we should be looking at something a little bit different now based on what's happening in the world? It is not going to go away for the short term. Thank you.
Ms. Weiss has.
So through the chair, yes, I communicate frequently with our investors through CIBC. Just was chatting with them about 2 weeks ago, actually. So we always are looking for different strategies, however, still within our investment policy parameters. And where it speaks to interest revenue, this also is not only those investments, but also the interest provided from our checking account, our bank accounts as well. So there's kind of two components there.
It's a devaluation from hyperinflation.
Okay, moving on.
The next report on page 167 is requisitions. Not seeing any questions. So then going to page 168, we start into the reports for the major project and capital project plans. So on this first page, we just have a summary of those two plans combined and table that summarizes the completed projects funding summary, as well as the work in progress funding summary. Moving forward, then we break it down into just individually the next page into the major project plan itself and show the same information broken down by completed and work in progress and just the funding of those various projects. And then going to page 170 is where you have the detailed listing of all the projects that worked on in 2021 and the status at the end of the year. So you'll see the column that speaks to the status, and if there was a work in progress and there was work to be done in 2022, a carry forward request would have come forward through the various reports that finance brought forward for council consideration for carry forward into 2022. Are there any questions on any of the projects on the major project plan?
Councillor Vandenberg?
Yes, this question is for Mr. Bain. The land use bylaw update, as I read through it, multi-year completed in 2023. My question would be, is that the entire package completed at that time? Or are we going to see some bits and pieces? It just seems to me a long time for something as important as, I mean, that's basically what we do as counselors, is we help you with land use bylaws and governance and that sort of thing. I wonder if you have some comment on that. We appreciate it.
Madam Chair, through you, yes, we just had a report in front of council at a workshop, I think in March, just talking about this. So the answer is kind of yes to both parts of the question, actually. So the completion date at this point is projected to be at the end of 2023. So that's completion of the review, full new bylaw in place, and goal met. But there are going to be steps along the way where we'll be bringing information back to council, either for discussion, or they could be in the form of smaller amendment packages to our existing land use bylaw that will then flow into the new document. There are some areas where we just need to do that. So the intention here is that there will be bits of this that you'll see this pretty consistently now, pretty much through the end of the project, come forward in specific ways through workshop conversations or through council public hearings and things of that nature.
Well, if I may, so then our municipal development plan, how does that conversation get integrated? Potential for, I mean, in order for you to do your job, you have to be working with an MDP that is, current. So is there plans for us to review that so that it integrates into this project you're working on? Perhaps it's part of this project. I don't.
It's not part of this project, Madam Chair, but you do have a current MDP. You adopted in 2019. So I would regard that as current, and it replaced a 2010 document, I believe. It might have been older than that. I don't quite remember, but it's a current document that reflects council's direction and policy form. And with that said, though, there is actually a project to update that as well. It's an interim review that would be undertaken this year as well. So these two things are happening in parallel, but I would suggest, though, that the the direction that is set out in the current MDP as it currently exists is more than sufficient to inform how we develop the land use bylaw. It's the high level direction. The land use bylaw is the regulation that flows from that.
Thank you.
If that helps.
Councillor Smith?
I noticed the regional broadband strategy says the project is completed. We've spent the $20,000. Just an opinion of where we're at. The federal government said they're going to get me high-speed internet at my house. The provincial government said I'm getting high-speed internet at my house. The county said we're putting high-speed internet everywhere, but all I get is a bill and I can't even download a picture of a grandkid. I got to stand in my window to answer my phone. Is this billions and billions and billions of dollars actually going to find its way into our hand, or is this just another political promise? I mean, we've been talking broadband strategy here for 9 years. And the government's been just pouring money into it, but I haven't seen a nickel and I haven't seen my internet speed up. So just Dwayne, if I could, through the chair, what's your opinion with all that cash out there?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of council, there is some money starting to flow to private third-party providers. So we're seeing some interest in the county, actually particularly out in your area. So there is some movement. A lot of that money is earmarked for remote areas of Canada. And so we're not considered remote. So those principal dollars, those main primary dollars will be allocated to those remote areas that are considered first priority. But there is also interest in some of the more lucrative areas like Nisku. I think we have 3 providers that have approached us now about running fiber in the park. So there is starting to be movement, but mainly from the private sector. There are municipalities that have invested their own money because no one seems to be able to secure money for high speed. If you're in a municipality that's kind of in the hub areas around the major metropolitan areas. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
So the next report we have in the package is on the capital project plan. So on page 173, we have the listing of all the various capital projects that were undertaken in 2021, as well as a status update on those projects. So are there any questions on any of the projects within the capital project plan? I will look more specifically at the bridge program and the road program after we go through this initial summary. Just if there's anything for bridge and road, we can cover that when we go to that summary.
Any questions, Councillor Vandenberg?
Well, just a comment. I mean, but not necessarily, given what's going on, they don't necessarily. But the way you described it, below the project schedule and budget are in jeopardy. That all of a sudden makes me, it makes me second look at the red areas. Okay, what's going on here? I don't know if that could be softened up here. Are we really in jeopardy? I mean, comment on that. And I have confidence in administration, but I see the word jeopardy.
Well, that might be one item that we can take away for that senior management team discussion about perhaps a different word choice. I think it's, to bring awareness that there is something that is affecting the delivery of the project, I think would be a softer way to say that, is that, obviously we've seen significant supply chain issues throughout 2021 that have impacted our ability to deliver certain projects. So we can definitely take that under advisement for consideration for changing some wording in our reporting for 2022. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, Ms. Klamosko.
So going to the page 175, we have a detailed listing of the 2021 bridge program. So a really great summary to see all of these bridge projects completed in 2021. Okay. The next report in the package is the 2021 road program on page 176.
Questions? Seeing none.
Okay, so then the final two schedules within the quarterly package are, the first one is on page 178, and it's our operating fund reserve schedule. So at the end of 2021, we just had over $25.5 million in our reserve balance for our operating fund reserve. And then within our capital fund reserve schedule on page 179, at the end of the year, we have just over $22.3 million in reserve in our capital fund.
And is that considered to be healthy?
Given that our review of our reserve policy in 2021, I think that we are satisfied with the reserve balances that we do have. We continue to always evaluate, look at best practice, what are those optimal balances, and finance continues to do that evaluation, but we are satisfied with the amounts that we have. Thank you.
All right, do you have any final comments, Ms. Klamosko, on the quarterly report? We heard that some takeaways. How do we present things better? How do we soften the word jeopardy? A number of things. Anything else?
So I think that just a thank you to council as we wrap up our quarterly reporting for 2021. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you about all of the work that is being done within the county in the year. You know, our reporting allows us to be accountable, be transparent with how we communicate our updates on our projects and the work that we're doing. So thank you to council and to the senior management team.
Thank you. All right, looking for someone to move the report. Oh,
I was just gonna say, I have a quick comment. I last night sat beside the Reeve of Brazeau County at the seed cleaning plant meeting, and he leans over to me and says, and this year we again are doing 30% like other years. He says, I don't know how you guys could afford that. He says to me, well, that's because we look after our residents. I says, well, that must be nice. I says, must be nice to be rich. He says, well, you guys got more money than we do. And I says, yeah, there's probably a reason for that. So just thought I would inform you of that.
And you'll move the report as well?
I'll move that report.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Balazar will move. All in favor? That's unanimous. We are at 12 o'clock. So just does council want to finish with our last item or move that for first thing in the afternoon? What does what am I saying? Good. Continue, come forward. Continue, thank you.
Thank you, actually.
And we do have a bit more flexibility for all of those watching live stream. We aren't reconvening until 1:30 today. We did make a council motion to start the afternoons at 1:30, so we do have a little bit more time to squeeze in after 12 today, and I'll stop talking and hand it over to Mr. Honesty. Go.
Thank you. And I'm in interviews all afternoon, so I appreciate council squeezing
Is
this
that
in. So
you're interviewing other people or you're being interviewed?
we're interviewing to recruit for the county,
Okay.
correct? Yeah. Good clarification. We have brought forward an update for council on our census data related to the cost share. We break these down for recreation districts and allow us then to use that data to cost share with our municipal partners. We have a few updates and a few changes. Obviously, this information is based on the 2021 census, and that data was released here in February, which allowed us to evaluate it and come before council at this time. There are a few key changes that I wanted to highlight. First off, that we've removed the Nisku Recreation District from the plan. It's something that was traditionally in that plan. Obviously, we don't provide any services within the Nisku area, so we've just created new borders which divide between Beaumont and Leduc, understanding that primarily they will attend recreation services within their closest municipality. We've also kept the Devon Recreation District identified in the plan. We no longer have a cost share agreement with Devon, but we have done that because there's mutual benefit. So it's important for us to still recognize the residents within that recreation district. And we also did want to reflect for council that there is a significant increase to the Beaumont district. And this is due to our growth in specifically in the vistas in the East Vistas area. So there will be an impact to us that we'll have to review and address in the coming months here with our cost share committee.
Go ahead.
Dean, again, that was quite a shock in the Beaumont. And again, Beaumont is the fastest growing community right now in Alberta. And for us to increase our share, I think that's a red flag about costs going forward into that group of people. The Beaumont may start taking as much money as some of the smaller centers are. So I think it's a real heads up. And I know we're going into cost share agreements, but again, our East Vistas, we either have to pay Beaumont or develop. So I think it's something that we really need to look at. And I think Thorsby, we need to keep an open mind as well as they're growing by as much. And I'll just put this out here, perhaps Thorsby Recreation is a different type of a partnership going forward. And again, I won't say much more than that. I'll let you fill in the blanks on that, but there may be an opportunity or there may be a need to change the cost share into something different. And I don't want to say, you know what, but definitely there's red flags in Thorsby that we need to take care of our residents, and Beaumont, there's going to be an escalation of cost. Dean, one final question, if I could, through the chair. I noticed the new Sarepta rec district has like 4,400 people in it. And again, we do have the rink out there. I was just wondering on the land sale for, we have money in budget next year and the year after to develop the ball diamonds out there. How is the land purchase coming in New Sarepta for those diamonds that we've been working on?
We're continuing to have conversations with landowners, just identify some opportunities for next year's budget. So we are actively in those conversations right now.
Okay. Further questions on the report? Councillor Vandenberg?
And I'm on page 184 and using the 2021 spreadsheet. And just a clarity question, we do the math, it ends up being at 67%, but can you clarify, as per council motion 74, so 74 is overriding 67, is that how I?
Correct. So, and that is something that will come before council here in the next month or so as well. Based on the per capita cost share, it's changing to that 67.1, but there is still that outstanding motion that we would pay based on 74%. So it's still an item that we still are required to review and finalize with council in the near future.
And if I can, when you do bring it forward, can you bring in the elements that justify that?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, any further questions or debate on the cost share population allocations 2021 census? I am seeing none. So the recommendation is that Governance and Priority Committee approve the 2021 census allocations to inform the recreation cost agreements. City of Beaumont, 11.43%, City of Leduc, 5.80%, Town of Kalmar, 47.50%, Town of Thorsby, 62.59%, and Village of Warburg, 67.10%. Looking for someone to move that. Councillor Lewis, thank you very much. Motion is on the floor by Councillor Lewis. Looking for any debate, comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? It is unanimous. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Honesty. Good luck with your afternoon endeavors. We will recess until 1:30.
before we go on, I noticed the report about the counts and projections and stuff. We're at 40 Gs in. Is everybody within the MRB required to do updated
Population.
even over there?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I've called us to order, and we are going to go first to economic development and Edmonton Global Update. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Campola-Young and myself are very pleased to present this report for last month's activities. Starting off with some potential leads. A couple of them coming through Edmonton Global, and actually I have a couple more to add here that didn't get written into the report. Edmonton Global shared an opportunity for a biosystems manufacturing facility that is looking for a brownfield site, and so that they could upgrade and expand their capacity. Leduc County was able to share 4 potential locations. Edmonton Global invited Leduc County to speak with a Chinese multinational heavy equipment manufacturing company who has a current facility in Ontario, but are looking for a Western distribution center. The feeling from the conversation was that the company wanted to be close to its competitors who are mostly located in Northwest Edmonton, but we did present a compelling case for them. Administration has also been made aware of a PPE, a personal protection equipment, is that right? Get my acronyms correct. Manufacturing facility that is looking at our region, and we were able to put together a very compelling package site of offerings for the group to consider. And as of last Friday, there was another lead that came from Edmonton Global in regards to an electrical bus manufacturing facility.
Hey.
And I offered up the old John Deere Riemann facility,
perfect.
which of course is made for manufacturing. So hopefully they'll take a good long look at that. And actually Wednesday, Brianna and I are entertaining Edmonton Global and CBRE representative in the old Hemco building for a couple of opportunities there as well. Just a quick kind of a real estate update. Acre Commercial Real Estate, Jim McKinnon, very active in our region. They're presenting their inaugural or very first Leduc Nisku Real Estate Forum tomorrow. They are currently reporting Nisku vacancy rate at 5.45, which is down slightly from last month. And they continue to report leases coming up and the rate continuing to go down. Sector updates, transportation logistics, Zing Final Mile, one of the partners in the drone project, is having a mixer tonight at EIA to share insights into the logistics industry. Administration will be attending and have shared the invitation with other business contacts in the region. Agriculture and agri-food, administration is developing an implementation plan for the agritourism strategy that came out of the Rural West Economic Diversification Plan. And summertime is obviously a great time to implement some of those activities. The Alberta Hemp Alliance has a conference at EIA on April 21st, 22nd. They do have 2 Alberta ministers speaking, including Nate Horner, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development, as well as Doug Schweitzer, Minister of Jobs, Economy and Innovation. At last count, I heard they had about 120 attendees, and they're looking to have about 200. Warehousing and logistics, I've reached out to the new operations manager at Amazon and now have connectivity into the local facility should we have any questions or need to reach out to Amazon. In the energy sector, I had met with the proponents of the Alpine Sun Solar Project at the airport to discuss how Leduc County can support this development. They're looking to break ground Q1 2023. Project status updates. The Nisku Rec Center redevelopment. Funding has been secured to support the operation of the 2-year pilot program. The project team is actively working on procurement and resource acquisition in order to undertake renovations to the facility and commence operations. If we go down just a little bit further and the next steps, administration is moving forward with a build out of the space, negotiating a contract with a third party to manage the business resource center. I don't think we've officially fallen on that name yet, but it certainly identifies what we want to do there. We've also developed job descriptions and drafted an RFP for the business retention and expansion aspect of the plan. Monday, May 16th, we are having our Economic Development Summit at the Hotel Renaissance at EIA. We're working on the agenda, securing speakers, and an invitation list. We'll be showing off the new videos that were completed in the first quarter here, along with the printed community profile. Very much looking forward to that. We're thinking we'll have just under 100 attendees for that. Foreign Trade Zone, Port Alberta. This relaunch occurred on March 23rd, just a couple of weeks ago, at the Warehouse Distribution Center of Steele in Parkland County. It was a very small group, only about 25 people, but the media did share it quite widely. So Edmonton Global is really trying to promote the reopening of Port Alberta and what it can do for companies in the region. The Edmonton Global update. Malcolm Bruce reported that the Regional Air Service Opportunity Fund is working very well, and EIA is reporting 54 direct flights versus 52 pre-pandemic. So they have really come together with that. The TransPod, may have seen some of this in the news, is a Hyperloop rail system that is proposing a track between Calgary and Edmonton. Apparently they've secured some financing. Edmonton Global is currently assessing the economic impact and getting the proposed GDP on the Metro Edmonton region through E&Y. Edmonton Global is finally getting into markets that were shut down due to the pandemic. Team members are traveling to Dubai, UAE, San Francisco for a variety of sector-specific shows. At our last EDO meeting, they invited some staff from Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada, or ISED, to speak to our network. This federal department works with Canadians in all areas of the economy and in all parts of the country to improve conditions for investment, enhance Canada's innovation performance, increase Canada's share of global trade, and build a fair, efficient, and competitive marketplace. Edmonton Global, as you know, are the major sponsor for the Canadian Hydrogen Conference being held at the Edmonton Convention Centre this month, at the end of this month, April 26th, 28th. Registrations have far exceeded their expectations. And I think I reported last time there was 14 countries that are sending delegations. So it should be quite the event. And lastly, the summit that they were planning earlier in the spring, of course, been pushed out to September 28th. That's at the Edmonton Convention Centre. Our administration is part of the steering committee working on the agri-food portion of the program.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions? Or go ahead. Is it about your number on the board in there or not?
It is. I have an announcement to make. I was just wondering, you seem to have a lot of referrals from Global in the last little while. Is that rare or is that above normal?
I would say that it's rare. We get them periodically. It just seems that as markets have opened up and investors are coming into the region, that Edmonton Global is getting more activity and sharing a lot more leads. So maybe it's finally paying off. And so it's really looking good.
Okay. Councillor Manenberg?
So to add on to that question, of the leads that are offered up, are we getting our fair share? Be the next part of that I would like to ask. And I have two more questions.
The leads are offered up to the whole shareholder group, and communities can respond as required if they think they have the requisite facilities to match the requirements. So they typically will send like an Excel spreadsheet with X number of square feet, 24-foot high ceilings, et cetera, et cetera. So depending on whether communities have brownfield sites or build to suit sites, they'll send in recommendations for these particular leads.
Okay,
typically.
So that does sound pretty fair.
Yeah.
So exciting stuff with your potential leads. It's one thing to go out and show what our backyard looks like. Do you have a strategy in play that manages these leads, that touch spaces with them? Like being top of mind when it comes to closing a deal is being able to be there at the right time, because they have choices. And if you visit with them and then they don't hear from you, you may lose a deal. So I'm just wondering if you have a strategy for that.
Yes, certainly. We're working very closely with the industry sector experts. So for instance, Trevor Kleck is the agriculture, agri-food expert with Edmonton Global. So we're working with him on the hemp opportunity. The bio-industrial one is Robert Sikora. We're working with him specifically on those, and we follow up continually to see where the investment decision is, whether we've been brought out of the mix or we're still in contention.
Okay, good. That sounds great. That was a great video he put together. The ag fellow, the first guy.
Trevor
really,
Kleck.
Really good agricultural video. He put, speaking of that, you mentioned videos. We have videos?
We do.
Okay. What are they? What are they about?
We're looking to launch them at the ECDEV Summit.
Preview?
We could, I suppose.
I mean, I know 2 years ago, I pushed this forward, this whole video thing. And so it's been pretty exciting for me. And then when I hear that we got videos, whoa, okay. Tell me about your video.
We have one is a 3.5-minute community profile where Mayor DeBlanco is featured prominently, along with talking about the different industry sectors and why people should invest here as a brief recap. And then we have a specific agri-food processing video. And we're looking in the future to highlight a video of each industry sector that we feel that we're prominent in.
So Madam Chair, we'll share links to these things for council to see. They've been under review at the administrative level for a little while, and we did have some edits on one of them. So I believe they're in final form.
Yes.
Right? So we can share links to those.
I would thank you
Members
for
of
that.
council. Yep.
Any further questions? I'm seeing none. Looking for someone to move this for information. Councillor Wanchuk, thank you very much. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On to Population and Employment Projections Project Charter. Ms. Johnson and Jordan. Whenever you guys are ready.
I don't have
That's all right.
to accompany this. So good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. The county's population and employment projections were last updated through the Economic Development and Growth Management Strategy that we completed in 2016. Since that time, the county has experienced significant change. Of course, we've had the change in our municipal boundary as a result of the two annexations, City of Edmonton and City of Beaumont. Number of economic conditions have changed due to the cyclical nature of the oil and gas sector, phasing out of coal, and of course the pandemic. Considerable growth has occurred in North Nisku logistics, and of course with the Spine Road, it has now opened up new investment opportunities. So while there are numerous reasons to update the county's population and employment projections, the primary reasons for updating those projections at this time are A, to inform the municipal development interim review. As we talked about previously, we are required to ensure that our MDP takes and reflects RAMP within 2 years of its approval by the province. We still don't know where that's at, but it will be approved by the province, or they expect it to be approved by the province anytime now. And then within the 5-year interim review of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan update, whichever occurs first. The other reason for undertaking those at this time is as a result of the 5-year interim review of the growth plan, of course. The Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board has indicated they will be updating the population and employment projections for the region, and have indicated the population and employment projection studies prepared by member municipalities will be considered. So it's well worth our effort to undertake these and provide that information. This project will build off of course, what we've done to date. So the Economic Development and Growth Management Strategy that was completed in 2016 and IRIS, which was completed in 2021. As part of this project, we'll ensure that any gaps in any information will be undertaken so that those gaps are filled. This document, together with statistical information such as the census, 2021 census, will be used. This project will be initiated in April and hopefully completed in June. Certainly note that this is an aggressive schedule, but we've needed to undertake an aggressive schedule in order to provide inputs into the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan 5-year interim update. They've indicated that they'll be looking for information with respect to the population forecast in May and June, and then as well their economic development, their employment forecast in September. So we're going to attempt to ensure we have that data by that time. Of course, we're not going to sacrifice quality for speed, but at the same token, that's our aspiration, is to ensure that we have that information. So funding of $40,000 for this project was approved in the interim budget for 2022. As you'll note in the project charter, there are 3 components to the project. The first one is the background report. And as mentioned, it will review, identify, and address any gaps that we may have in our economic development and growth management strategy and IRIS. It'll review all the new statistical information, and will also determine the existing land supply based on the land designations in the county's MDP, and summarize the absorption rate since the economic development and growth management strategy was completed in 2016. The second component, of course, is the actual study, so the population and employment forecast and the land supply analysis. So the population and employment forecast will be based on a sound, transparent methodology. It is anticipated the methodology will be very similar to what you would have seen in the economic development and growth management strategy completed in 2016. It's based on the survival cohort model. The approach and assumptions on which the forecasts are based are to be discussed and agreed to with council and staff. So there's that opportunity still for council and staff to have input. The forecast will include a low, medium, and high, and it'll coincide with the timeframe of the growth plan. And then as well, we've also want to ensure we have the 50-year projections so that we can relate it to the projections of the city of Edmonton, Beaumont, and Leduc as they've undertaken 50-year projections. A share capture model is to be prepared. So this is similar to the economic development growth management strategy. We want to ensure that it is consistent with the growth anticipated in the region. So what can Leduc County expect in growth in relation to the region? And then lastly, those 2 reports will be consolidated and presented to council for approval. So with that, I'd ask if there's any questions or concerns regarding the project charter.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the overview of the charter. The open up for questions. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. On your project charter, you have a couple dates with April 2020, May 2020, and then a June 2020. Is that work that's already been done, or is that maybe just an error?
Oh, estimated date, 2022. Those are typos. My apologies. Estimated date of completion.
COVID, those 2 years of COVID have disappeared from your memory, haven't Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, my apologies. That should all be 2022.
Thank you. Anything further? I am seeing none. I will be happy to put my name to The motion to approve the project charter for population employment projections is presented. It is a very, and as you said, it's a very aggressive schedule, and we understand that you may or may not exactly make till June, but there are extenuating circumstances outside the county that the faster we get it done, the more opportunity we'll have to do some of that other work. So I get it. Motion's on the floor. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Looking for someone to move us in camera. Councillor Lewis, all in favor? Opposed? Were you in favor, Councillor Vandenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for joining us again. We are out of camera. The only motion made in camera was to come out of camera. And with that, again, thank you for joining us, and I will adjourn at 2:31.